Hey everybody. All right, week two. I know the first week we had a lot of short assignments that you had to do that were in like the Start Here module. So hopefully this week will be a little bit smoother and not so overwhelming like with the number of assignments that you have to do. All right. This is a fast-paced class with it being summer. We've got 11 weeks, and those 11 weeks are really like there's one half a week and there's one half week. So it's almost 10 weeks. So it's quick, it's fast paced. You've got your first exam next week. So let's just make sure that you aren't feeling too far behind or overwhelmed. If you do feel like you're struggling, please reach out to me and I'll be glad to help with you, and we can work on like a plan or a schedule that's going to get you caught up and so that you can do well in the class. The time is right now though. If you realize that there's these issues that you're dealing with, deal with it now. Let me know now so that you can do well the whole semester. At the end of the semester, it's kind of too late to make up for a lot of that. Okay. All right. So this week, the first thing you need to do, if you haven't done it already, make sure you have done the practice exam. All right. I assigned that last week. Most of you have probably done that by now. But this one is due this Tuesday, June the 7th. So what you'll do is go to the Start Here module up top. And if you'll scroll down a little lower, there's a folder that says practice exam. That's got a walkthrough video. It has a link to download Respondus Lockdown Browser. And if you remember, I said there's a little bit of a hiccup with Blackboard Ultra. So before you can take the practice exam, you're going to have to log into ACCS Blackboard. It's the same thing as our Blackboard, but you have to log into it before it's going to let you access the practice exam. All right, you're going to have to do that for the real test too. So that's why I want to make sure we know how to do this before the real test happens next week. So just remember, number one, we're making sure we can work through these steps. And then number two, you have to record your desktop or table surface 360 of your surroundings. You cannot add anything to your environment, and the webcam has to be centered on you. Even in this practice exam, I know you don't have to cheat for the practice exam because it's questions like what year is it? And hopefully you know that. But I want to just make sure that we understand when we take a test, this is what we have to do to get credit. All right. So make sure that you do that Tuesday. And on Wednesday, I will go through and review all the videos. If I need to send you any feedback or if you need to redo anything, I'll send you a message on Wednesday the 8th and let you know about that. All right. Okay. So that's the first one. Again, hopefully you've got that done already, but just in case you haven't, make sure you do the practice exam. Now we need to go ahead and do chapters 19 and 2. So chapter 19 is systematics and phylogeny, and I know that sounds terrible, but all that's dealing with is, in chapter 15, we talked about evolution and how organisms are related to each other. So chapter 19 deals with how we group those organisms and how we put them into different categories. All right. Chapter 2 is on chemistry. It's kind of we're changing topics a little bit, but we're doing basic chemistry. Now, if that intimidates you, I taught middle school for 1 year, and it was the most miserable, longest year of my life. But the type of chemistry that we're doing in this college biology class is at the same level that we did in that 7th grade chemistry class. So don't let that intimidate you at all. It's just the basics. We're not going to be balancing equations or anything like that. But there is a lot of information that's in there. So just make sure you give yourself enough time to get ready and prepare for that. All right. So watch both of those lecture videos. Remember, you've got the PowerPoints that you can download and print off and take notes on. And let me know if you have any questions about that material. Once you have watched those and you feel pretty comfortable with all the information, you've got a review quiz, which is due Sunday, June the 12th. So it's just 5 questions on chapters 19 and 2, just to give you a chance to see how well you know the information. There, you can use your notes, so you should get 5 out of 5 every time we have a review quiz. But this is also just to let you know how well you know the material. So if you've studied and then you open up the quiz and you're like, oh man, I don't know any of this, that's maybe a sign that you need to go back and rewatch those or look over your notes or look over the PowerPoint again. Because we want to have a good understanding of the material before the 100-point test next week. All right. Okay. Other than that, a couple more things. Any of the last week assignments that I assigned you, remember I pushed the due date on that first week's assignments back until the 12th. So if you did not do the About Me survey or the syllabus quiz or the diversity project or the chapter 1 and chapter 15 review quiz, those are all going to be due on the 12th. So make sure you finish those if you haven't done that already. Hopefully you did that last week, but just a reminder. And lastly, we have our first lab is going to be this week. So lab 1 is research and the scientific method. We talked about the scientific method in chapter 1, so this is going to be a chance for you to practice and go through some of those steps. You are also going to do a really simple experiment where we're going to use body measurements for someone's height, wingspan, and then some different measurements on their arm, like from their hand and wrist or from their hand to their elbow. So those are supposed to be in certain proportions, and I've got a video that's going to go through, and the instructions are really good to tell you how to do all of that. But in this experiment, what I wanted to tell you is that you're going to have to get 30 different body measurements from different volunteers. Now, if you tried to do that by yourself, that's going to be tough. You could put a post on like Facebook or any social media and say, hey, I know this is weird. You can blame it on me. You can say, in my Biology 103 class, we have to do an experiment. Can you please tell me your height, wingspan, and all the measurements that it's asking you for? So you can get measurements that way. That's still a lot of measurements to get those. So what I've done for us, this is in the week 2 module, the one that we're in right now. Click on week 2. Scroll down to the folder that says Lab 1, Research and the Scientific Method. And in that folder, I've created a discussion board where you can share your measurements with the class. There are 24 or 25 students in this class. So if everybody gives their own measurements and then a few people give an extra measurement or two, then we'll have 30 measurements in no time. So let's work together as a group on this. Don't feel like you got to do this all on your own. Okay? Online labs are new to you probably, so I would give yourself plenty of time. It recommends that you set aside, I think it's like 3 or 4 hours to complete this lab. Now, number one, in a summer semester, labs are 3 hours long, so that's kind of standard. I know that's a long time, but that's kind of what we would be doing in a traditional class too. But for a lot of you, this is not going to take that long. It's just because this is new, we want to set aside at least that much time to make sure that we're not rushed or missing the deadline or anything like that. Okay, so it says the only thing you need for this one is not much. You need a calculator, which your phone probably has that on it, pen or pencil to write down measurements, and then it says 30 research volunteers. But remember, if you go to that folder, there is a discussion board where we can share our body measurements and get that information pretty quickly. All right. Finally, just a reminder that next week is your first exam, so it's going to cover chapters 1, 15, 19, and 2. So the chapters that we've covered last week and this week. So that's going to be open Monday and Tuesday, June the 13th and 14th. Exams are going to be open for 48 hours in this class, so just make sure you set aside some time to do those. And if you've noticed at the bottom of each of the chapter folders, I've got a link to the study guide. So feel free to use the study guide. Study guide is not a list of test questions, but it's at least a list of the topics. So as long as you feel comfortable with all of those topics, you should do pretty well on the test. All right. If you need anything or if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.